Welcome to Expert Talk. I'm Tigo. Today's guest is Dr. Kevin Willis, or as we like to call him, Dr. Dub. He's a sports psychologist, an entrepreneurial coach, and a guy who has a lot of knowledge about just what's going on up here. So sit right there. We'll be right back. Hey Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, we have met through ClickFunnels and 2Comma. You're actually my coach, and I appreciate that. But what a lot of people may not know is you really are Dr. Dub. You really are a coach. You're a hockey specialist, but you have a PhD in psychology, correct?
Correct. Exactly right.
So what does that mean? I mean, you're a sports psychologist. You definitely understand people. You understand, in the group that we're in, there's all these different personalities. We're entrepreneurs finding our way through. But you're dealing with young sports minds from the young guys all the way to pro. So how did you get into this?
Well, it was funny. Back in 1980, February 22nd, I watched a hockey game that pretty much charted my course from there. I watched a young college-age hockey team from the U.S. beat literally a hockey machine from Russia to win the gold medal in the Lake Placid Olympics. I mean, we all know about it. It was rated as the top sports event of all time, and it hooked me. I was 16 years old, and so I thought, well, what can I do to stay around this sport, to really understand it? And I decided right then that I was going to figure out, how did this group of boys beat this professional men's team that had won the last 3 Olympics, for crying out loud? How did that happen? I needed to understand how that happened. And so I've been on a mission ever since to understand the mind of the athlete, to understand how to get more out of them than just their God-given skill and their size and all those kinds of things. There's something else going on there, and I needed to understand it. And so that's been my passion ever since.
Okay, so how did it happen? I got to ask, how did they beat this powerhouse? Because I remember it too.
Well, it really came down to preparation and just a mental toughness to work harder and to last longer than the other team. I do think that the Russian team probably found themselves in a situation where they just assumed that they were going to win. They had the skill, they had the size, the speed. I mean, they were, no question about it, the better team. But when push came to shove, they didn't have that mental toughness to back it up. Now, counter that with what happened with the American team. They knew they were going into a battle. They knew they had very little chance to win. It really was sort of what do we got to lose attitude. But more than that, there was a belief that began to sort of generate, game after game after game. And that tide of belief and confidence in what they were doing and that they had a chance. And it sort of added to, the whole energy of the whole event. And I think at the end of the day, they had enough skill and speed and experience in the game, but couple that with the massive amount of mental toughness that they brought to that event, that's what gave them the edge. Everybody's going to be great, but they can be as good as they can be, right? So it comes to potential. And that's what I've tried to do in all of my coaching, whether I'm coaching entrepreneurs, whether I'm coaching, young hockey people, whether I'm coaching a professional that wants to stay in the show. It's all about, am I getting the very most out of what I bring to the table? And if I can do that consistently, then I can be successful.
Okay, so you mentioned mental toughness a few times in that statement. And right now we've got NBA, WNBA playing in what they're calling the bubble down in Florida. We've got hockey going on. I saw baseball where they've got cutout people sitting in the audience and they're pumping in sound. You know, people say the phrase, which being a former jock and prior military, I hate the phrase dumb jock, but people say the phrase dumb jock. You're talking mental toughness. What's this doing to their minds right now? Are they playing at their 100% right now? What's going on out there in those fields?
Yeah, I'm sure that their level of compete is being affected. And what I mean by that is that they always practice with, you know, without the fans, so to speak. Now they have some fans, but not stadiums full, right? They practice on their own. They work out on their own. So they understand the preparation side of it. And that's not changed very much. What's changed is now we're walking into this stadium and we're competing, but we cannot see or hear the fans. And I do think that there was a certain amount of energy that they get out of the fans that they were just used to being able to plug into their game. So now that's gone. Part of the reason why I think they're pumping in the sounds and all that kind of stuff is to get as much of that energy as you possibly can. I don't know if you've ever watched a hockey game without fans. It's very quiet. You hear a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking on the ice. Same thing with basketball. There's a lot more squeaking with their shoes on the court, but there's a lot of talking, right? So what was funny, they had to actually create a delay in the broadcast because the talking is not always, 13 words.
Right.
Example of they had to sort of adjust for what these athletes were used to performing in to try to get some of it out. But then actually when you get into the competition itself and you're really into performing, I think that all that sort of disappears, right? It's between the plays, it's between the periods and stuff like that, that energy is sort of not quite the same. But when you're in the heat of competition, I do think that they're so professional at what they do, they're able to dial it up and be just as competitive and strong as they need to be.
So you touched on something there too. You said they're so professional. But what about the amateur athletes? What about the young guys? I've got a nephew that is a phenom. I've got a grandson who's a basketball phenom. He's 14. He loves that attention. He loves that crowd. How do you get that 14-year-old to get out there and give it his all, be it hockey or tennis or baseball or basketball, when they don't have that professional mental mind yet?
Right. Well, I think it comes down to sort of what is their motivation, right? So if you think about a professional athlete, they're motivated by a paycheck. I hate to say it, but they're getting paid. They're professional. So there aren't external aspects of it, but they've come up their whole life being internally motivated. Well, amateurs and kids, they don't have the paycheck, so to speak. And they probably have been externally motivated for years and years and years. But if they don't have an internal drive, if they don't have sort of that intrinsic drive to be the best they can be, to work hard when nobody's looking and to practice and to again, try to be the best that I can, that level of potential that should be there, then you're probably not going to have an opportunity to play at the next level, because it's the internal drive that gets you through. Now, if you're a kid and you've got all this attention because you're winning all the games, you're scoring all the points, right? You just are good game after game after game. That feedback that you're getting from the outside is going to motivate you and pump you up to move forward. But what happens if that motivation goes away? Right? What happens if that motivation isn't there anymore? What happens if nobody's commenting? You're still doing the same things, but nobody's commenting, nobody's saying anything. There's zero feedback. Are you still interested in playing? Well, I would say if you're intrinsically motivated, then you absolutely are, because you're doing it for the sport. You're doing it to reach your potential to be the best you can be. So the lack of fans or anything like that has no effect on you. You're doing it for you. But if you're doing it for external reasons, right, for mom or dad or the coach or the fans or the comments and the praise, then when that goes away, guess what? So does your performance, right? So I think it comes down to what is driving you. And it's one of the things that I work with when I'm working with folks, whether it's, like I said, entrepreneurs or athletes. It's what is driving you, because if you can't have that internal drive, then when you hit the wall, when you run into obstacles, when adversity comes at you, and it will, what are you going to do to get through it? Intrinsically driven people power through. Externally driven people many times will struggle. Maybe they'll question whether I want to keep doing this. Is it worth this amount of effort that I'm putting into it? In which case you might lose some. You might lose some because of the difficulty.
So what happens with athletes that are from not the safest neighborhoods? I'm from the south side of Chicago, and you're discouraged, to play in the general park areas, because it's just not safe. It's just not safe to play. And the schools are not open, so you can't play with your team. You can't play in the parks. So what are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to stay fit, stay focused, stay on their game when they can't be with their team? What do you suggest they do with this downtime? Because we're going into, month 6 here pretty soon? What do you do, Dr. Dub?
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough deal because, again, this is a small window to be able to excel in your sport. And anything from, say, 14 to 18 is when kids are deciding, do I really want to go all in? Do I really want to be everything that I can be? And then by the time you're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and up, you've committed, right? You're on that path. That's where I'm going, and there's no more looking back, right? Mm-hmm. But it's those early years. So how do you make sure that you keep that passion and all that? Again, I think it comes down to, are you internally driven to do this, or are you externally driven to do this? Right now, if you're externally driven, then you're going to struggle, right? Because again, the feedback that you're not getting, the struggle it is to find a place to practice and do. But if you're internally driven, you will find a place. It's funny, I've worked with a lot of hockey folks here over the summer, and of course, there's no contact or anything like that, but what we're seeing is that we're having them record their drills and stuff that they're doing in the driveway or wherever they're at, in a tennis court or something like that. Record their drills and so get it back onto social media so that they can get feedback. The coaches were seeing that and saying, hey, send some of that stuff over. There were contests saying who coming up with the coolest drills and stuff like that. So all of that was driven by the athletes, right? The coaches didn't say, oh, you need to go and do this, right? The athletes started doing it. Well, if they're externally driven, are they going to do that? No. If they're internally driven, are they going to figure out a way to get back out there and do it anyways? They will.
Hey, I have a quick question for you. Do you want a professional agency to handle all your video creation, syndication, and monetization needs? We totally understand that new leads and customers are the lifeblood for any business. And if you're looking to grow or scale your business, using video is definitely the best way to go. Here at Melrose 11, we specialize in getting you the results you need to help you grow your business by generating new leads, driving more traffic, and closing more sales without breaking your bank. Did you know, according to HubSpot, having a well-targeted video on your landing page can increase conversions by up to 80%? Yeah, and up to 64% of users are more likely to buy a product online after watching video than by text alone. And that 92% of mobile users share videos with others. And 90% of users say that videos are helpful in their purchase decision making. Incorporating video into your marketing and social media activity is no longer an option, it's an absolute requirement if you're looking for long-term success. Heck, it may even be essential for the very survival of a business. Here at Melrose 11, media truly is our passion. We create animated explainer videos, social teasers, catchy intros, full HD commercials, and even viewer interactive videos. So, if you're looking to elevate your brand, or attract more leads, generate more sales, increase traffic, or build up more exposure for your business, then you've definitely come to the right place. Our professional team will develop your video campaigns at an affordable price, and a quality of work that can't be beat.
Now, you're good. I mean, you're my coach, you're good, I know this, but you're only one guy. You have a program or something because you managed to duplicate yourself virtually, correct?
Mental game training should be a mandatory part of an athlete's development, and it's just not, right? So that was my original approach, is to figure out, how do I make mental game training a mandatory part of an athlete's development? So I've created online courses, right? I've created opportunities for one-on-one coaching, whether it's with the athlete, whether it's with the coach, or whether it's with the parent or the team, right? And what that's been able to allow me to do is I can coach, teams all over North America. And I live East Coast, right? I live in the East Coast of the States. So I have a combination of online coaching with group coaching, online coaching with individual coaching. And it's worked really, really well. One thing I can say about this COVID stuff that's happened and sort of forced people to look for other ways to is it's really sort of elevated the attention around what I do. I see more and more coaching that maybe a year or two ago when I would reach out and say, hey, I'd love to work with your team. Well, how do you do that? Well, we log in and we teach. Oh, no. If you can't come in, if you can't stand in front of them in a room or something like that, it's never going to work. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't hear that anymore, right? This has been a big change, that there are better ways and other ways to do this. So that's sort of been helpful in and of itself.
How are you addressing the parents, the moms, the dads that are thinking, yep, my son's good, he loves hockey, but hockey is a violent sport, one, and I'm worried about COVID, I'm worried about all of this, not my baby, I'm not going to let my baby out there. How are you addressing that?
I think for the younger kids, the parents are more motivated to make things happen than the kids are. A lot of time the kids just want to play, they just want to have fun. Oh, we can't practice, okay, no worries. Oh, the game's canceled, oh, okay, no worries. Whereas the parents are like, oh, we scheduled this, we planned this, we had somebody watching the other siblings so that we could do this or go there or whatever. So they're very, very invested in their kids' sort of development and performance, which is something that you got to be very careful with, because if they become more invested in the kid's development than the kid does, then all of a sudden, you get this weird sort of pressure to perform, pressure to play, pressure to love it, right? And can you imagine, you got a parent that wants their kid to love the sport as much as the parent does. All you end up doing is causing them to hate it. You literally, by wanting them to love it and pushing them to love it and do it, you actually push them away from the sport. So always warn parents, the harder you push them to play, the less likely they'll want to.
You've been coaching actual coaching. You're not just a coach on paper. You're not a coach by PhD. You've been coaching for 20 years.
Part of the reasons why I fall in love with hockey so much is because I just understand the game so much. For me, when I was 16 and decided I was going to be a coach and I was going to understand the game in a way that, as a non-player, there's certain things that I will never understand, but I can put myself on the bench. I can see the reaction of kids coming off the ice, their behavior while they're on the bench, as they go out on the ice, and all those kinds of things. So I think I probably have a perspective that is as strong as a player's perspective. It's just a different responsibility, right? I'm coaching and teaching and sort of motivating, whereas they're performing. Yes, if I could go back and wave a magic wand and have a playing career, I think that would be awesome. But you know what I've decided? There are so many great people out there that when they find out what I do and my passion for sort of spreading the word, so many great people come up and say, just let me know how I can help. Let me know how I can help. Pro players, ex-pro players, coaches, And so for me, it's not a problem to sort of surround myself with that hockey experience. That's not as difficult as you would have thought. The one thing I don't have, though, is that name, that when you say my name, you instantly think hockey. Like, if I could have a Wayne Gretzky or a Mario Lemieux or Sidney Crosby or Ovechkin, these guys, you say their name and it's hockey. So my job is to surround myself with people like that so they know I'm hockey.
Oh, they're coming. But I do have a question for you now. There's kids sitting at home, there's adults sitting at home, these athletes are sitting at home. So it's okay, Coach, right? I mean, they're sitting at home, they're athletes, they can eat whatever they want, they can drink whatever they want, it's fine. Whenever this COVID thing is over, they can just go out and play. You're not worried about nutrition at all, are you? Nutrition doesn't matter, does it?
The downtime has not been good for the the state of their body, right? It takes a lot of work to create an elite athlete, to have their mind and body in tip-top shape to be able to deliver at crunch time. But how quickly that falls off when we're out of training, right? There is a certain amount of recovery that I really like to see in sort of balancing the amount of effort that people in. But yes, COVID has forced us into a level of recovery that is just way too long. And I know everybody's chomping at the bit to get out. But one thing I wanted to say, you mentioned nutrition. There are some areas in the physical development of athletes that we mistake as mental toughness issues. And one of them is nutrition. So if you're not fit, if you're not nutritionally sound and fit, and you start to fade in a game, is that because you're apathetic? Is that because you are just getting beat and you don't have that toughness to tough it out? Or is it because you had a crappy meal the day before or the morning of, right? So nutrition can sort of disguise itself as a mental game issue. Another one is sleep, bad sleeping patterns, right? If you have poor sleep the night before, and you fade in a game the next day, is it because you weren't tough enough, or is it because you just didn't get enough sleep? Hydration is another one, coming back from injury. See, all of those are sort of areas that when I'm talking with somebody who's struggling in their game, I don't instantly think that they're just lacking confidence, that they're struggling with resilience and things like that. I always want to make sure that what else is going on? You know, how is your diet? How is your sleep habits? How is school going? How are you getting along with your family and your friends? These are things that are outside of it that can manifest as mental game issues, when in fact, they're fine with their mental game. It's just all this other stuff is just piling on.
So not every athlete that you coach ends up being a pro. They don't, just walk off of this field and walk into that pro arena. They walk into whatever it is they're going to do next. How would you say they apply the coachings that you teach onto their next careers, whatever that may be?
It'd be nice to think that, in school, in professional life and all that kind of stuff, we're never going to have adversity, right? We're never going to have to deal with moments of performing under pressure and stuff like that. That would be nice to think, but we also know that's not true. All of these things that you learn to be a tough player, to be able to, step up in crunch time, to be able to, endure tough challenges, to be able to stay the course when you're not getting feedback or you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. Those are lessons in sports that can be applied to all of those other areas that you mentioned. And so one of the things that I really pay attention to when I'm working with players is their identity, right? Because if you create this identity that I'm an athlete and that's all I am, then when it's time to sort of, step out and become something else, that's going to be a big challenge, right? That's going to be a difficult transition, because you're going from I am the athlete to I'm a what? What am I now, right? Versus if I can work with them as we're going and make sure that they're balanced, that they're people, their value in everything they do, they just happen to be really, really good in their sport. Well, then those people that are ready to transition very, very well, right? You're exactly right. Not very many go on to play professional sports. There are not that many opportunities to play at the highest level. So as we're developing these players and we're bringing them along, they have to know that there's different things that they're going to have to be able to pursue to keep happiness, to keep fulfillment, to give themselves another opportunity to, play under pressure and to, reach their peak performance in something, whether it's their sport or their job or their education. It's all there, and it's all things that can be used really throughout their entire life.
Well, I know you have a really busy schedule, and I really appreciate you fitting me in today. But we got to touch on, you're an author. We got to touch on your book. And I definitely want to share where they can find your program. So let's talk a little bit about your book and where they can find it.
Sure. So I wrote a book called Hockey, Grit, Grind, and Mind. It's in bookstores, Amazon. If you're up north, you could probably walk into a big bookstore and find it. If you're in the south, you probably aren't going to find it. But of course, online, you can find it in all the major outlets there. It's really written for players that are anywhere from, say, 12, 13, 14 all the way up to 17, 18, 19, 20. It's really sort of the core foundation of what it takes to play this game of hockey and be mentally tough. And so that was my initial entry. But again, I think the online courses that go along with the book are where the really big bang happens. And then, of course, anybody that would like to work one-on-one, have programs where you sign up and we set up a time and we have a discussion and we sort of roll out a plan. And that way, all these things that you're learning, all these things that you're doing, we're able to sort of apply it in your specific situation. So programs, I've been very successful in being able to reach the kids where they're at. And then when I look at some of the more established professional programs and stuff like that, it's really sort of a maintenance thing, right? These guys know these things. It's just how do you remember to implement over and over and over and over again. So.
And how do they find your program?
My website is the Complete Player. One word, thecompleteplayer.com. No spaces, no dashes or anything like that. Go there. You're going to see all the different options that I've got as far as, programs and stuff like that. You can sign up for, I have challenges, that 30-day challenges that you can sign up for. I have full mental game boot camps that you can sign up for, or you can just get on the phone and we can talk about what your needs are and then sort of take it from there.
Well, Dr. Dub, I mean, I've been a student of yours now for almost 2 months, I think, and I can tell you definitely changed my world and my business, and people will be watching that because one of the reasons this show is doing what it does is because of people like you and the leadership that you give, and I thank you ever so much for everything that you bring. You are definitely a wonderful and amazing guy.
Thank you so much. No, I enjoyed doing it. The reasons I got into coaching entrepreneurs like yourself is because that mindset, the mindset of that elite athlete and the mindset of that inspired entrepreneur, very similar in their work ethic and their persistence and their passion and their drive, very, very similar. So you're the reason why I think this area of coaching entrepreneurs is quickly becoming my almost my new favorite thing. So thank you for having me on.
Dr. Kevin Willis, or as we like to call him, Dr. Dub. Yep, sports psychologist. Entrepreneurial psychologist for me. He's a wealth of knowledge, he brings a lot of insight, and he really does help me steer my course. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I thank you for continuing to watch, and I'll talk to you next time.